Welcome to the Expert Edge. This is the show where we bring on experts in their fields of health and wellness practice, hear their stories, and learn what they see working in the field of diabetes reversal and prevention. So I'm happy to introduce today's guest, Dr. Kathy Sawhill. Thank you for being here and welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me, Lucia.
Dr. Sawhill's passion is to assist individuals in understanding their body and the underlying processes of health and illness so that individuals are better equipped to manage their own health and well being. She has been a licensed naturopathic doctor practicing in the state of Oregon since 2002. So, Dr. Kathy, tell us a little bit about how you got started with your interest in this intersection of lifestyle and health.
Well, I was raised in a medical family. My father was a pathologist. Uh, just seeing everything that my relatives were going through, a lot of diabetes in my genetics, my genetic history, not me, thank goodness. Um, I quickly became disillusioned with the pre-med track that I was on, and I thought, I don't think I can do this, and I stopped going to school. I later went back and got a BA in Spanish, but during that time when I took a break, I started learning everything I could about plant medicine and nutrition, just how the human body works, and what I intuitively felt was like health, how to get health. And from there, I didn't even know the profession of naturopathic medicine existed. And
Isn't that
it took a
interesting?
while. In 1996, I was in the library, Martin Luther King Library in Washington, D.C., looking through graduate school book catalogs. And I stumbled upon a very tiny paragraph about naturopathic medicine. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was created for this, and it was created for me. It was pretty much everything I'd already been doing without the license of a doctor. Yeah.
That's so great. I noticed that you had shared that you actually were like practicing massage and herbal medicine and nutrition and working with people in these areas, not knowing that there was such a profession as naturopathic medicine that would pull
Yeah.
all of these things together. Isn't that interesting?
It was an amazing feeling. I'll never forget it.
I bet. And so, what did you do when you found out that this was a thing? What was your next step?
Well, I knew that's where I was going. So I didn't even apply to any other there are a few naturopathic schools now in the country, but that was it. I felt very much people ask all the time, why did you become this? Would you do it? Would you recommend it? And for me, it's always been a calling. It's like I don't have any choice. I've tried to do other things, and I always come back to this. This is where my contribution is, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. So, some people that are listening to us may not be real sure exactly what's included in this term naturopathic medicine. Like, how would you
That,
describe that type of practice to someone who'd never heard of it before?
that's a very good question, because a lot of people, they hear that word naturopathic, which is kind of an antiquated word at this point. Um, Even the school has changed it to natural. And that's what they think. They think that we substitute pharmaceutical medications with plants, and that is not what we do. It's really more of a philosophy that the whole body and mind, even mind body medicine kind of gets me sometimes, because it's implying that there's a separation. And so the philosophy of naturopathic is that everything is related and connected. Whereas when we're learning about the body in our healthcare paradigm, in our medical schools, even the naturopathic medical school, we reduce everything. We reduce everything to an organ, a system, and forgetting or not even knowing, because of our technology hasn't arrived yet, the interconnectivity of everything.
That's so interesting. And I totally agree with you that when we are looking at health or illness, it's so important to understand that there isn't a separation between the mind and the body, that they actually work together. They work on each other. They're totally interrelated. It's kind of like saying, a person is a head and a body, like as if the head or the body could survive alone, right? And so taking that whole person approach to health and healing, I think is really key to understanding some of the most helpful ways to regain health and to maintain health when we lose it. You mentioned that many people in your family have dealt with diabetes or metabolism related diseases. So, people that are listening to us here may have gotten a diagnosis of pre-diabetes, or maybe they know they have diabetics in their family. Maybe they're all the way into like a type 2 diabetes where they're taking medications, trying to control their blood sugars. So, from a naturopathic doctor's perspective, what are some of the simple things that people can do that can help them to stop this process or even reverse it?
Well, it's a lot of common sense. And the biggest thing is taking a walk after meals. And
Mm.
now there is so much research and studies showing that taking a simple 30-minute brisk walk, or if you can't walk, some sort of exercise, chair exercise, march in place in front of your room, in front of in your living room if the sidewalks are icy, which is something to be aware of. You
Especially
don't
when
want
you
to
know you.
fall. But yeah, doing some 30 minutes worth of activity, the brisker, the better. It's going to really help after a meal. Just redistribute everything where it's supposed to go and keep that blood sugar low. It really does lower the blood sugar to exercise after a meal. And that's a very simple thing.
It is very simple. Now, you mentioned brisk. Um, what are some of the things that are probably most important for people to remember if they want to try to use this simple step to lower after meal blood sugars? You talked a little bit about speed and you said brisker was better. Is there anything else they should be concerned about? Like, what if they don't have 30 minutes? What if they only had 20 or 10?
That's fine. Anything works. Yeah. Don't limit yourself by numbers and time periods. This is another problem I see with a lot of diabetic nutrition. Just all of that counting of the carbs and the calories. And, I just really believe we're not designed to like calculate our food like that. So, I really try to get people away from that and getting them back into their bodies. So as far as if you cannot give up 30 minutes and you can't do a brisk walk, you do what you can then. Like I said, marching in place in your living room for 10 minutes is going to have a difference.
I heard it said once that for every minute of moving your arms and legs after a meal, many people can experience a 2 or more point a drop in blood glucose. Has that been your experience as you've worked with people in these areas?
Yes, absolutely. And that's definitely reflected in the research.
So even 5 minutes, you can maybe lower it 10 points. If you do that every day and every meal, you are going to start to see a difference in your average blood sugars over time. So I would encourage you to take even the smallest amount of time to start putting this into your routine, into your schedule. And as you can, increase that. And the more you do that and the more consistent you are, the bigger an impact you're going to experience. Are there any other simple
I
steps?
would add to that, if you're going to monitor, that is one of the best things to do. If you're starting on a new program and to take your blood sugar before and after and monitor and see what works for your body, because that's the thing. It's your body that people, no one else knows your body the way you do. So get to know your body even better. Know your body, know your diabetes, and that can help you stay out of all of those crisis situations that happen with diabetes.
Yeah, that's so true. And I talk to a lot of pre-diabetics that don't even own a glucometer. And so I would say if that's not something you have and you already know that your blood sugars are not in the optimal range, one of the simplest next steps you could take would be to get yourself a monitor, a glucometer, even if it's not one that you wear all the time, if it's just one you can use to check maybe first thing in the morning or like compare what is your blood sugar right when you get up from the table, what is it after a half hour of walking around, moving. Those are pieces of data that can really help you understand what's going on in your body.
Absolutely. I love that. I
What
do
are
that
some,
with the high blood pressure too. Monitor your blood pressure. You get to know your tells. Most people know, oh, I have that little weird headache. That means my blood pressure is high. People get to know this. Knowing your body is, I mean, that's the biggest piece of information you're going to have because you have that information for the rest of your life. And you mentioned pre-diabetes a few times, and this is one of my pet peeves with our healthcare paradigm. Why are we waiting until people become diabetic? Our lifestyle, everything about this first world that we're living in is geared towards insulin resistance. Stop waiting for this. So I think education is paramount too. People just don't know. They don't know. And this is part of the healthcare paradigm that we're sort of seduced into is like give the power of your body and your health over to somebody else. And I really want people to bring it back into themselves, into their own power.
I think that's such an important message for people to get because no one can know your body as well as you have the ability to. Sometimes you need to like listen to people like Dr. Kathy here, or, follow this YouTube channel to educate yourself on understanding how your body actually works because it's unfortunately something that's not really taught in school. It's not considered a course subject. I'm not sure why because I believe that we all own bodies. We all should know how to take care of them. It's kind of like everybody being handed a BMW or a Ferrari with no owner's manual, right?
That's
And
how I felt when they put my son's baby body in my arms. I'm like, what, no book?
so true, so true. But even though we don't come with owner's manuals, we now are in a position in this world and in this stage of history where we understand a lot of things about what can really optimize our body's function. And and I love how you brought up the idea of pre-diabetes is really when something needs to be addressed, not
Needs
waiting
to
till
be
it turns
treated.
into
Yes.
absolutely. And I run into people all the time who said, yeah, my doctor said I had pre-diabetes, 10 years ago, but I figured it was pre-diabetes, so I didn't have to worry about it. And so a lot of people think that as long as it's pre, it's not really serious. And then not really understanding, right? Like your risk for heart attack and all sorts of things go up as soon as you become a pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
So damage is happening in your body. It's like this is already kind of late, like
It's
you're
already a
in
thing.
prevention
Yeah.
phase, right?
The body's already putting fat into muscle,
Yeah.
at that point.
And that extra fat load pushes our insulin resistance, which means it makes it harder for our bodies to metabolize carbohydrates, even whole food, healthy, unprocessed carbohydrates have more trouble being handled by our body when we get into the state of insulin resistance. So the earlier we catch this trend, I think the better.
I agree. I agree. And I would throw in, stress, managing
Mm.
stress, because all of these things, pre-diabetes, stress, not all of it just builds on it, and all of that plays into developing all of the diseases that humans die with, including diabetes. Stress is the root of it. We can trace the pathophysiological. So exercise is another way to get rid of stress. I mean, it's all connected.
I love that. No matter whether you're dealing with stress, or diabetes or obesity.
Diabetes.
It's all the same lifestyle things to help all of them, right?
Yep.
So I love that it's not one treatment for blood pressure and an opposing treatment for obesity. It's like all the same things
Yes.
work together to help us optimize our body's function. As you've worked with people that have come to you with metabolic issues, maybe they're starting to develop prediabetes or they're into type 2 diabetes. Do you have any stories you can share of someone that started working with you and then what kinds of changes or benefits they experienced as they implemented some of these simple things that you've talked about?
Well, being a naturopathic doctor, I get the people that really don't want to be on medication and they do want to substitute with plants, and which is doable.
Mhm.
Those are the stories. I know many diabetics that do not do any medications and they manage it. Now it's a little bit extra work. You got to take that walk after every meal. You got to do something. You have to manage your stress. But it is possible. When I was a student, I worked with uh, a doctor. He was in his 70s and had met several careers before he became a naturopathic doctor. But he told me that he cured his diabetes early on. He was, an actor in Hollywood, and he was doing a lot of drinking and drugging. He developed diabetes, but he cured it with chicken soup and a walk after dinner. And he
It-
lived on chicken soup. Now, not everybody wants to live on chicken soup, but there are ways around that. There's so many things that people can do. So,
And I think
yes,
it does go to show that intentionality and actually being consistent in just some simple modalities are what could reverse these things completely for many people without having to do anything more drastic than that. And, I love how you mentioned stress because many people, when they think about diabetes, they think about, oh, I'm eating too much sugar. If they're a little more educated, they might say, well, I probably have too much fat in my diet. But those are kind of some of the things they really look at. And how many people really understand the direct and immediate response to stress that we experience in terms of blood sugars?
I don't think people understand it. I think we accept it. It's just part of being alive, and it doesn't have to be that way. That is the what's going on in our head is the only thing that we have control over.
That's so true. And
We don't
stress
exercise.
completely created between our ears, right? I mean, stress isn't something that actually comes at us from outside. It's about how we choose to think about what's happening around us.
Exactly how we perceive it. Mhm.
And our ability to control that is so much more than most people realize. I remember talking to a family member because I come from a family with a lot of diabetics as well. And I remember talking to a family member who told me their experience of checking their blood sugar. And it was actually, they were on medication and so on, but their blood sugar was like down around 100. And then they got a very stressful phone call from their boss.
It's,
And they didn't eat anything, but they
mhm.
felt so bad after the phone call that they checked their blood sugar again, and it was 400.
Yes, that is an incredible story. Please monitor your blood glucose. Know your tells. Yeah,
Yeah. So, like when you're feeling emotional upsets, or you've been in a kind of a stressful situation, conversation, a dynamic that's not working well for you and your relationship with someone else, just try monitoring your blood sugars around those episodes so that you can start to get a feel for how much of your blood sugar rises are maybe connected to emotional triggers every bit as much as they might be connected to food triggers or nutrition
yes, yeah.
issues. So I really appreciate you
That's a
bringing
great
that out.
story. Yeah.
Sometimes people ask questions like, can naturopathic doctors prescribe and manage diabetic medications and other health concerns? Because maybe you've been listening to Dr. Kathy and you're like, but I'm already on medicine. I am taking insulin every day. I have two kinds of insulin, a short acting and a long acting. And so my primary care physician adjusts those dosages and like gets me my prescriptions. Is that something a naturopathic doctor can do?
It depends on where you are. In Oregon, I have a full formulary. I do manage medication for patients. I can prescribe. uh, most of the medications, the exception being cancer drugs. I
Okay.
don't treat cancer. But yeah, we're licensed in, oh, I forget the number now, but I put that on my bio. We're licensed, I think, in 26 states and Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands. If you're in a state that is unlicensed, please contact your government.
Yeah.
Find out how, there are naturopathic doctors who have trained in licensed states who have gone back to their homes all over the place, South, Midwest, those are the big places that haven't been licensed yet.
Mm,
And you can
interesting.
find them. And you can lobby with your government to get this is as a licensed profession. It's
Yeah.
been around for over 100 years. And the philosophy is based on, Hippocrates. So
Hmm.
do no harm. Food
Yeah.
is medicine.
And so I love the holistic approach that many naturopathic doctors bring to their practice, and also the fact that they often are taught and skilled in many kinds of modalities that may help you avoid needing pharmaceuticals. So, it's not just about managing your insulin, but if I were in that position, I'd want somebody that can help me get off my insulin so I don't need it.
Yes.
You
And
know,
naturopathic doctors are definitely well equipped to help people with that as well.
and I think that's really, really important. I really appreciate the fact that you've also developed some resources that can really help people that are interested in taking a more natural approach to prediabetes or even diabetes. So tell us just a little bit about this free gift that you've prepared for our audience.
Well, one of the things that I help all the patients do is level the playing field. And without too much trial and tribulation, a simple elimination diet with a reintroduction. The resource that I have shows how to do this with all sorts of tips um, to figure out what foods nourish your body and what foods are not so healthy for you, regardless of what mass media says. So it's testing your body and finding the best food for you.
I think that sounds very helpful. And you will find the link to that on the same page where you're watching this video. And in the description below this video, you'll also have contact information. If you want to reach out, if you have questions for Dr. Sawhill, you can reach out to her Facebook, her Instagram, social media, website. She has a lot of different ways that you can get connected with her. So I'll make sure that you have that as well. So as we're kind of wrapping this up, tell me, what are some of the like that anything we haven't mentioned that you think would be really important for someone to take away from our time together today?
Don't take life so seriously. We're always going to be figuring out how to manage stress. This is it. So if you find a mind hack on YouTube that works, do it. And if it doesn't work, you find a new one. So that's part of the resource too, is just different ways to mitigate stress. I
And I
think
love
that's the most important. From there, everything else kind of flows.
I love that you kind of open this up. Um, in that we need to be open to exploring, to learning new things. Self-education is an area right now that is just exploding in
Yeah.
the United States and Europe because people are starting to say, I really want to understand for myself things like how my body works.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of resources being produced nowadays. This YouTube channel is one of those resources,
Yes.
but there are
Yeah.
many others, right? There are books, there are seminars. So start like reading some things for yourself and don't just this is my personal opinion and recommendation is don't just trust Dr. Google because
Yeah.
you can often find a
Absolutely.
lot of contradictory material there and that can make it very hard to sort through, especially if you don't have kind of a science or a health profession background. And if you feel like you're just too confused to do your own research, I would say to find a practitioner that really resonates with your values, the kinds of things that are important to you around managing your health, and then work with them to help sort through and filter maybe some of that information you've come across and figuring out what really works for you because we're all unique, we're all human beings. So, in some ways, we're all the same, but in some ways, we're very unique. And so, I think that figuring that out can be super helpful for us as well. So we've talked about, I'm doing a little recap here. We've talked about stress, we've talked about nutrition, we've talked about exercise as important areas. Is there any other area of lifestyle that you'd want us to mention before we close down our interview today?
Those are the big ones. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I find that when people have less stress, they tend to gravitate towards what is most healthy. You know, that well-being is the natural flow. We're the ones that cut it off. Everything you look around at nature, it flows towards healing. It does. Nothing flows towards, everything recycles and renews itself. So our body is constantly healing and constantly dealing with what's coming into it and at it. So we do our part by knowing our body and giving it what it actually can benefit from.
Yes, I think that is so important. You know, as a Christian, I feel like our bodies were designed very intelligently.
Oh
It's
gosh,
a
yes.
random assortment,
Wondrously
right,
made.
of organs. It's like this, when you study the systems of the body, they're so intricate, very elaborate, so interconnected.
They
It's
are not
This
separate.
could not happen, in my opinion, randomly. And
No.
so as we understand more and more about these systems and how they work together, the better decisions we can make around our health. So I just want to say thank you for being here today, for investing this time in listening to our interview, because it means that you are investing in your own health and that it's important enough to you that you took this time to learn a little bit more about it. So I want to say thank you to you for doing that because remember, health is wealth and it comes by choice, not by chance. So thank you for being here with us today.